Sorry to keep you waiting. So we are starting with what I normally do. Oh, I always do that. Okay. I keep thank you. These are the memories of life.
Basically, what it is doing that now it is 49 bytes, but whenever it gets left, here will sleep light less than 45, it will turn left, and again it will turn to the right, and it will go this side and continue along this side.
Sir, we have decided to test the quality of milk and tea. The characteristic feature of milk is the fat content or the casein content. So if we want to have an approximate guess of the purity of the milk, we can find out the percentage of casein or fat in it, so that we can guess to what extent the milk is pure.
Yep. Very nice.
If the two things are on the same level, the electricity or this electricity is not transferring, but if we are moving this upward, then from higher level, the electricity is going to the
Below
some level. Also, we are doing a secondary backup system which has a sensor here. If the second sensor fails, then fall and automatically then also.
Today's problem. Oh, that's good.
Whether they can put the idea here.
To have with us distinguished personalities of this country to come and visit us and inspire us. First of all, on behalf of all of you, I would like to welcome our chief guest, Mr. Sam Pitroda, and would like to felicitate our guests with a bouquet of flowers. To Mr. Sam Pitroda, can I have a student to come and hand over the bouquet?
Dr. Roy, Mr. Islam, staff members and colleagues working here, dear students, friends from media, good morning. First of all, I want to compliment the whole group here for putting together this innovation hub. I had an opportunity this morning to just walk through it, and it is exciting to see young students doing things on their own, exploring, questioning, learning, and having fun. I am delighted to be here. I was here about 25 years ago when Saroj Ghosh and I worked together on creating a big exhibition for Soviet Union. We spent several months together in preparing science and technology exhibition, which traveled across 3 different cities in then Soviet Union: Moscow, Leningrad, and Tashkent. So I am familiar with this talent of people. They helped us a lot, and when we thought of putting together an idea on Innovation Hub at Indian Science Centers. All of the colleagues here, Mr. Rautela and others, came to Delhi, were excited about it, conceptualized, and finally got it done. I think that's more important. You have it today running a live sort of idea that hopefully we can replicate in many more centers like this. We would like to do this at about 48 or 40 centers we have in India today. It will be nice to do it at every district as part of DIET program, maybe in a very small way, but it's difficult to do things in 550 districts in India. Fortunately, in the 12th plan, there is funding allocated by the government to build innovation hubs. As you know, Government of India has declared 2010-2020 as the decade of innovation. We have also established a National Innovation Council. We are working in various states to build state-level innovation councils, sectorial councils. We are trying to create ecosystem to help innovations and innovators, which include funding, training, knowledge exchange, linkages, all kinds of activities are going on. But these things take time. Our goal is in the next 10 years, our people should be really be the leader in innovating and addressing solutions that really help us. At the end of the day, innovation should give us productivity, efficiency, reduce cost, and help in solving problems Indian way and not just copy from Western world, because their models are expensive, many times don't work for us. We need local solutions. And that's what we did in Tarakan at one time, when we had, thank you. Thanks. I just had food poisoning last night, but that's okay. It just happens once in a while. I got too wild and started eating too many Bengali fish. That's what I did. Yesterday I had lunch at Presidency University. They're just fabulous fish. I overdid it. Then in the evening there were some great shrimps, and my wife kept warning me that you are no longer young. You should experiment with all this. I didn't listen. So all night I had a serious problem, a lot of bleeding and all. But anyway, I'm okay. So no, thanks. And that's part of the reason I was late coming in here, because we were waiting for hotel to get some medication. So 2 doctors came, checked me out, everything's okay, no big deal. But since I had a very bad history on health, I had 2 quadruple bypasses, I had cancer, so my wife takes it very seriously. And she panics if something little happens. So Government of India is trying to do lots of things. Besides fund, we want to launch 4 Jod centers in schools. And the idea is to really excite the young mind to begin to question. In our system, we don't question enough. We can't question our parents. We can't question our teacher, and slowly you begin to accept things as they are, as opposed to say, I want to change. I can't expect this. Why should I do it this way? I want to fight. If you don't fight, seniors will not change. They will always force you to follow rules. Whose rules? Their rules. And you don't have to follow their rules. It is good to be rebellion on and off. You need in a society like this many more rebellions who take their own path And if seniors say you are on wrong track, assume you are on right track. Because their judgment is 25, 30-year-old. You know, when my children, I have grown up, 2 kids, 38 and 35. When they were very young in 4th, 5th grade, one of their teachers in America told me that, Mr. Pitroda, we would like you to come to all our schools and talk about inventions. This was, 30 some odd years ago. So I used to go to local schools in America where they will get 500 kids in basketball field. And I will talk about invention to these kids. And I'll tell them, how do you invent, what is a patent, how do you file a patent, what does patent mean, what does patent contain, how do you then prepare a prototype, how do you make sure prototype works, then how do you get it funded, and then how do you build a company, how do you create jobs, and how do you really create wealth for the community. This is to 5th graders, 4th graders. And then after that talk, this was before email and web and all, I would get a lot of young kids writing me letters. And they would say, basically, that we had never seen live inventor before. So it's good to see an inventor who looks like normal human being. Not having this big beard and crazy and, wearing his shirt out. You look normal at least, leaving aside your hair. Okay? And then I will never forget this thing. One little kid wrote me a note saying, sir, I have invented something and I want you to check this invention. And he says the problem is following. Both of my parents work. They leave at 9 o'clock, they come home at 5:30. And we have a cat in the house. So I come from school at 3 o'clock and I am supposed to feed this cat. So as soon as both of my parents walk in, they always ask me, did you feed the cat? And I have to say yes. How much did cat eat? What did cat eat? And he said, they never asked me, did I eat? He said, this stupid cat comes in the way, so I have invented automatic cat feeder. So he says, please check this out because then I can tell my parents, talk to the machine, don't talk to me about cat. So the kids had their own way of looking at it. So I had several interesting examples from these kids. And I think the message is we need to start very early on innovation. We can't wait for senior scientists with 50 years of experience to invent. They are doing their thing. And they will do it well. But can we really light fire in these young people who walk on the street and see a problem saying that sign is not straight, that thing is not right, this is not right, the lamp is not high enough, light is not proper, constantly question. I'm one of those who is constantly questioning. If I am sitting in an auditorium like this, instantly first thing I do is how many lights are here, how many fans are here, how many chairs are here. I just do it by just design what's the size of this room. I don't have to. But I think it's that habit of constantly energizing your mind. And then there is never a dull moment in your life. You never get depressed. You have no complaints about anybody because you are busy in your own world. I would be watching sometimes TV with my wife. She will go do something and come back and say, what happened? I would say, I don't know. Because I am looking, but I am not watching. I am having my own trip. Okay? Because there is so much in this world that needs to be invented, that needs to be thought through. I am one of those who firmly believe that everything we do today is obsolete. Because it's all based on the mindset of 19th and 20th century. When we had no tools like internet, computers, software, all sensors. I mean, look at the power of small little processor. I've been in this business for a long time and I've seen computers evolve. And one little chip has so much power and intelligence. How do you use that? To do everything. For example, in 10 years, You will have a car that won't need driver, even in Calcutta, with all this crazy traffic. Role of driver will change. Every job that we know today is going to be obsolete. You don't need clerks, you don't need chaprasis, you don't need driver, you don't need, but the jobs will have to be upgraded. 21st century is all about knowledge. How do you use new knowledge, create new knowledge, to do things differently? Technology is all about increasing comfort for us, for human beings. Just look at this camera, how image processing has changed in the last 200 years. Just think about it. Not long ago, King would sit there and some guy will come with brush and all and paint, and King will have to sit for 10 hours to get a portrait. Then came camera, black and white. Then color. Then Polaroid. Then all these fancy cameras with big lens and this and that. But you still have to have a film, get it processed, and if your mother wanted your picture, you'll have to mail it to her. Now, it's all instant. Just look at the way image processing has moved along. Now you can manipulate, you can cut my hair on photograph, you can add green hair on my face, you can grow me a long beard, you can do all kinds of interesting things. Every field you look at is just moving at very fast pace. I get fascinated with image processing. There's a printer, 3D printer now, some of you may have seen it, which prints in real time whatever you want to print. It will print a bottle. Just like this bottle. I can just program the bottle, print here, will print a bottle. And in 10 minutes you'll have a bottle. I have seen nose being printed. Literally this kind of nose. I've seen some crazy ideas. I'll give you one idea. A friend of mine one day thought that we all eat a lot of chicken, that is those who are meat eaters. And every chicken you eat, you have to throw this much feather, because you take the feather out. So he did some calculations. He said, in the world we eat 10 billion chickens or something. And 10 billion chicken creates feather worth 2 mountains or 3 mountains, whatever. So he said, how do I engineer a chicken which has everything else intact in terms of food value, but no feather? So he worked on it. And he designed a featherless chicken, which looks funny. I've seen it. Because featherless chicken running around looks like, what is this thing? You know? But it's a chicken. Okay. I have another friend who is analyzing lightning bulb, firefly. And his idea is that if I can understand exactly what goes on in firefly, I want to inject that in a tree. So trees will light up at night. It may happen in 50 years, it may happen in 100 years. It is going to happen. Another fellow I know says, I want to develop a liquid which I give 2 drops to a child who is born at the time of birth. And it will form a lining. So no matter what this child eats, it will make protein out of it. So there will not be protein deficiency. Another fellow says, why do we take crude oil from the ground and create a huge refinery on top of the ground which requires power and pipes and all that? I must do refining right down there. So he said, I'm going to come up with a liquid which I drop in that, and the process goes on right then, and the liquid coming out will be 93 octane. These are wild ideas. But it is going to happen. I have another friend who is trying to grow a tree that grows 6 feet a day. So I grow 6 feet a day tree, I cut it and put it in my furnace and I have energy. Take for example energy. We have been working on energy for 100 years where power plants are centralized. When you use these huge pipes, wires, distribution system to get energy to this bulb, and we don't know that the 80% of the energy that we generate gets lost and only 20% comes to light the bulb. Now that idea is obsolete. We need to generate energy when it is required. Today we do AC, we come to DC, we come to AC again. Lot of inefficiency. We need to go straight to DC. We need distributed power source. We don't need grid anymore. But these are wild ideas. People can't grasp because everybody wants status quo. As soon as you think of new idea, people get threatened. I don't read newspapers at all because I get my news on the internet. I'm not interested in all the gossip and things like that. I don't care. So newspapers are going to find very difficult time to survive over a period of time because all these kids, we get their news on mobile phone. Both of my kids never wear watch. Never. They say, why is this a stupid thing to do? They say that my time is on my cell phone. But my wife says, no, you should have this fancy, expensive Cartier watch. I said, no. It's a change in mindset. Just because you are wearing watch, I don't need to wear watch. I have a daughter, and my wife, like all her, mothers, want to buy gold for her. She will never wear gold or silver. She said, I like to wear plastic. Give her gold. She said, why do I need gold? I don't care. What I have two plastic, bands here and some rubber band, and it's okay. You've got to think differently. You've got to rebel. And I'm afraid that enough of our young don't do that. Let me give you one more example. One of my inventions has to do with electronic diary. I'll tell you how it happened. So some of these young people will be able to relate. I have a friend called Mohammed Haq in Chicago. So I had invited Haq for a dinner one day. Many years ago, 72. Haq came to dinner, little late, but I had forgotten, so I already ate my dinner. And Haq comes, rings the door, I open the door, I said, why are you here? So he said, what do you mean? He said, you invited me for dinner. Because my wife has gone to Hyderabad and you told me that come eat with me. Now I'm in trouble. So I decided that I have to eat with him again. So I told my wife got out of the mess by saying, today is Guruvar or some dumb thing. And she said, I don't eat on Guruvar. So she got out. I couldn't get out. So she had to cook again while we were having drinks or whatever. I had 2 meals that day in 2 hours. And I had upset stomach. So when I was sleeping at night, I said, what exactly happened? So I started analyzing it. And I realized that the diary in which I had written Haq for dinner did not read. I could only write. But I had to read it, I didn't open it. So I said, I must design electronic diary. So I can put in a message time, 7:30. I can put in a message saying Haq for dinner. And when the real time and the message time match, it should give me a beep. Saying down, Haq is coming for dinner, don't eat before that. So I said, this is a good idea. So I designed it in 73 when there were no microprocessors. Filed a patent. And when patent was to be issued, Intel had a microprocessor 4-bit. So I incorporated a claim on Intel microprocessor. And I filed a patent and got a patent in 1975. You can look it up if you Google Sam Petroda's patent on electronic diary. That was the first handheld device. So in US, I am known as the father of handheld devices. Okay. Anyway, but the interesting, I'm coming to the point. Okay. Then I forgot about it. I didn't have money to build a product or start a company. And then after a few years, I got interested in India. Came back to India. Spent 10 years with Rajiv Gandhi. Worked on telecom. technology missions, and lots of interesting things. And I had some great time. I would say I had best of the best time of my life in 80s with Rajiv Gandhi. And Jairam Ramesh used to be my colleague, so we worked together. And then I had a heart attack, I had quadruple bypass, Rajiv Gandhi died, and I ran out of money. So I had to go back to US to put my personal life in order. My children were ready to go to college. I didn't have money to pay for their tuition. So I decided to go back to US. But by then I had given up my US nationality. I was an Indian national. So I couldn't get a visa, though I was an American citizen before. So I went as a tourist. I go as a tourist, but I can't work as a tourist. And my family had no idea of all of this, because they assume that you are big enough and you're well known and you have lots of money stacked up, and they have no clue. Okay? So I'm depressed. On one hand, Rajiv Gandhi has died. On the other hand, I had a heart attack. I have no money. I can't work. What do you do? One day, I saw somebody in Chicago using an electronic diary after 15 years. So I looked at it and I found out that Casio, Sharp, Hewlett-Packard, Texas Instruments, Toshiba, and Seiko, the 6 companies make electronic diary. So I said, I have a patent on it in 75. So I found the patent. As a nice guy, I wrote to them saying, look, you are infringing with my idea, and how about some royalty? So they said, where were you for so many years, and your patent is not valid, and this and that. They always do that. And then there were spies in my house. They'll collect. One day my wife said that, look, your garbage at midnight, somebody comes and takes it away. This is a true story. True story. So I said, why? She said, I don't know, but I've seen people, at 12 o'clock they come, at 1 o'clock, and they just go through your garbage. I was puzzled. So one day, I decided to sue these 6 companies in America at Cook County Court, saying enough is enough. You got to pay me money, because it's my idea. It's my intellectual property. In 8 weeks, they all settled, gave me a few $1 million, so I could restart my life. Things happen like this in life. The message is, don't underestimate the power of idea. That's the message. You do it because it needs to be done. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. I didn't realize that electronic diary that I filed for fun because of her someday will rescue me and my family. I had no clue. So don't expect quick results. That's the message. Don't say I've invented something today and how come tomorrow I'm not rich. Be interested in innovation and not trying to be rich. When you're interested in innovation, something will happen someday. Even if it doesn't happen, the journey of innovating is the biggest joy you can get. I have never found a dull moment in my life. If I'm on the plane, I'm doing something, just thinking about some dumb thing. Okay? Always. It's such a fun to look at somebody and say, this has to change, that has to change, how about this, There is too much to do in this world. Especially in India, there is work cut out for 100 years, believe me. Every time I come to Calcutta, I see all these dirty ponds. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to tell some biotech guy, they design me a liquid, I put 1 bottle in that pond and it will become blue water. It will happen someday. Okay. There are lots of interesting ideas. There is a very close friend of mine called Anand Chakravarti. You may know about the man. Very famous scientist in America. 75-year-old, he lives close to where I live. And he was the first human being who got a patent on living thing. He designed a bug to eat oil spill. So if you have an oil spill in the ocean, you take Chakravarti's bug, and the bug just goes, eats all this oil, and then at the end of it, it disintegrates itself into nitrogen and oxygen, or whatever. It may not be oxygen, it may be something else. Chakravarti then used to work for GE General Electric. So when he filed the patent went all the way to Supreme Court. Because Supreme Court said, do we really give patent for a life to somebody? Patent to invent some other thing is okay, but he's inventing life. Finally, Supreme Court gave him the patent. This Bengali is known all over the world, probably not in Bengal as well, as the first person who got a patent in US for life. And then immediately he decided that he's going to leave GE and he's going to spend time working on solving people's problems. So he has a big team at University of Illinois, where he works on lots of interesting things. Very interesting person. Someday you should get him to talk about bacteria. And he's a storyteller. Wonderful human being. So one day he and I started talking about bacteria. I don't know anything about bacteria. I know electrical engineering a little bit. So Dr. Chakravarti said, Sam, bacteria came to us before we came. So when we are born out of mother's womb, when you come out, you start acquiring some bacteria, and that remains with you for the rest of your life. So bacteria colonize us. They like my heart, they like my stomach, they like my intestine or whatever. They are all over. And he said something such a profound. He said the only people who have interest in our living is our bacteria, not our parents. It's just such an interesting statement. He said, because if we die, they have a problem. They don't know where to go. So they want to make sure that we are alive. They fight anybody coming inside, they will fight, and they want to win, and they'll all gang up. And here's the whole theory. The way he says it is so interesting. So he said, let me tell you. This was 8 years ago. He said, I believe the entire world is on wrong track in trying to solve the cancer problem. Now that's a huge statement. To make a statement like that, you need a lot of guts. But he made it to a friend. I said, what's the issue? He said, I think the solution lies in bacteria. He says, cancer has issue with bacteria and not with cell. All these guys are focused on cell research. Billions and billions are spent world over on cell research. Nobody's spending any money on bacteria. So he started bacteria research. So I think you should interview him someday. So Anand Chakravarti developed 3 drugs on bacteria. He's trying it now. It is showing some very positive results. You give little injection, no matter what cancer it is, begins to work. He may need 5 years, 10 years to prove it. So one day he came and he said, look, research is very expensive in US, can you help me find somebody in India? I said, sure. So we set up a little operation, got into Ahmedabad, got 2-3 scientists to work with him. But you have to keep exploring. You have to keep asking different questions as nobody asked. And you have to believe in it. So you need at some point in time a little bit of arrogance. If you don't have arrogance, you give in too fast. And you have to say, I'm right and you are wrong. Because I know that this path, something will happen. I don't have the answer today. Don't give in too early. That's another message. If you give in too early, you may not really find light at the end of the tunnel. Because when you get in, it's a tunnel. It's dark. You dig in, you dig in, you dig in, and you begin to see some light. If you get in early, everything you do will have dark and no light. There are so many interesting people doing these kinds of interesting research. I believe all of these young kids will live to be 200 years. 200. Don't take anything less from anybody. Because by the time you get into trouble, like I got into trouble at the age of 50, heart attack and this problem and cancer. Everybody has this issue. Some are lucky. But when you get into trouble, biotech, nanotech, stem cell research would have created systems where, like auto parts, they will replace your parts. They'll replace your pancreas, they'll replace your stomach, they'll replace your bones, they'll just fix it. You go to the factory and they'll cut and paste and say, it's badlo, and they'll do this. And then you come out and you're back to normal. I have in Chicago 5 doctor friends, all Indians, all my classmates, from 60s. So whenever I have a problem, they all come together, they work out a plan, and I'm like an object to them. I go on a production line, somebody will come and say, okay, Sam, we have to go through this surgery. And I have no say in it. They all talk, they all meet, they are all there, boom, 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 they put you, on anesthesia, you are knocked out, and after 6 hours you wake up, and they are there with you. To them, it's an object. Human being, but concerned, like I had a problem today. My wife will call one of them. They'll all meet. As soon as I land in Chicago, they want this test, that test, and they say, okay, we got to check it out. There are so many interesting things that go on in life science. That you will live to be very, very long life. How do you live with that kind of lifespan? You need multiple careers. You can't be an electrical engineer or a literature expert or a journalist. You may need to be 4 things. 50 years of engineering, 30 years of painting, 20 years of singing, 10 years of, horticulture or whatever. Okay. So get ready for multiple careers. Get ready to innovate everywhere. Explore this exciting new world that you have. Today's world is very different because of web. You go on web, you can be there on web for the next 25 years and not learn enough. There is everything for everybody on everything on the web. You want to know about a person, you Google Sam Pitroda, you will see some 900,000 documents. Okay. You Google Einstein, you will see some fantastic stuff. You Google even Anand Chakravarti, you will see some great stuff. But you must get into that habit of exploring. I find our children don't Google enough. Maybe some don't have computers and all, but you will have it very soon. India will have all broadband, all computers. It's a matter of 3 to 5 years, which is not big in the history of a nation. But you got to dig, explore new frontiers, see things. Now it is possible sitting in Bihar or, small little place in Bengal, to go visit Guggenheim Museum on web. See the paintings. My generation couldn't think like that. We had no telephones, we had no electricity. You are so fortunate to be living in an era where the tools are very fancy. You just need to learn these tools and focus on innovation to change things. I can go on and on, but I would say, once again, that 12th plan gives you some more funding. Tor 4 Jod Center is a great idea. We thought of that. That's also an interesting story. Can I have 5 more minutes? This is also an interesting story. Some guy writes to me from India that I need to spend half a day with you because I have this idea for school. So I said, look, I have no half a day in India. If you want to spend half a day, come to Chicago. And he comes there. And when he comes to Chicago, so I said, I'll give you more than half a day. With India, it's impossible. So he said, I have this idea that in schools I want to do 4 Jod centers. Neeraj Gupta. Neeraj Gupta? Neeraj. Gupta, no? Well, smart guy. So I said, Neeraj, we'll do this. So immediately I called my colleague Samir Mitra. I said, Samir, sit down with Neeraj, work out the plan. And this is how things happen. I didn't have the idea of Tor 4 Jod Center. It was Neeraj's idea. All I could do is encourage him, support him, talk to bureaucracy, convince everybody it's a good idea, take 4 schools, launch it, and then things begin to happen. Because many more people have to take local initiatives to make things happen. This is an example of what you have done. We can't do much sitting in Delhi. We can talk, sometimes sensible, sometimes not very sensible. You know. But you have to really do things at your level. So I'm glad that we have started Toll 4 Road centers. I would request you to consider two simple ideas. One, it will be good to have innovation festival in Calcutta once a year. But all kinds of kids come and do their thing, and some interact and some, get confused, but we will do all of that. So have a once a year innovation festival, maybe in Calcutta, maybe somewhere else, or whatever. Okay. Two, it will be good to have monthly lecture on innovation in this kind of setting. Because there are lots of innovators in India who would love to come talk. Get somebody from defense saying, what is he working on? Get somebody from agricultural research, get somebody from biotech like Kiran Majmudar, get Ashok Gangulis of the world. Lots of people come to Calcutta to meet their family, friends. Get word out that we will have monthly lecture series on innovation. Because then you'll get exposed to many different minds. And there are some great minds in India. We are not using them effectively. We are not giving them the exposure they need. So I would request you to consider these two, and also a little bit of local innovation awards to kids, little certificate. Because kids, when I was a kid, I just liked the certificate. Didn't know what it meant, but it's nice to just look one with your name on it, say good. You feel good. Okay. So we need to make sure our kids feel good about what they are doing. That's a recognition from elders like us. I would rather give them certificate and recognition than advice. Okay. So I would suggest some of these ideas for your consideration. Once again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. One last thought, because I made a note here. Similarly, I tell you, once when I was depressed in US, I saw my wife writing checks to pay all the bills. And I watched her, because she does that on a dining room table, and I'm reading. And I had a cell phone with me, like this, sitting there. So I asked her, I said, how much time do you spend in paying bills? Suppose she said 6-7 hours a month. I said, I'm going to design mobile wallet. So I designed mobile wallet in 94. Designed in 93, filed a patent in 94. Got a patent in 96. Hired a group of litigation lawyers saying this is going to be a fundamental patent. What are the holes to plug in? They came back and said plug in 30 holes. And we have to take this into consideration, that into consideration. Filed another patent in 96. Got it in 98 and set up a business on mobile wallet in 98. I was the first one to design mobile wallet. Today we have 60 patents just on mobile wallet. Dumb idea. Idea was that if you get your plastic card in the mail, today my wallet looks like this. The idea is to put all this stuff on cell phone. So today when you send me plastic card over the mail, I want tomorrow to send my plastic card into the phone, because this is my new address. I don't have a fixed address, I have a mobile address. Today I'm in Calcutta, tomorrow I'll be in Delhi, day after tomorrow I will be in Mumbai or what. We have about 2,000 claims on this intellectual property. With the company, though I'm out of it completely now, in terms of day-to-day management, I have a colleague who runs the business. Once again, I want to emphasize, don't underestimate the power of idea. Ideas are more powerful than buildings and wealth and everything else. I hope you think about new ideas. I hope you have a new journey on innovation. Hang in there, don't give up too fast. Learn from the environment. Try to solve the problems of the poor. And I'm sure you will find very fulfilling in your endeavor. Thank you.
So will you take one or two questions if they have? Do you have?
Sir, I am Shumon Mashak from Meghnasa Institute of Technology. I recently saw an article that mobile radiation is too much harmful and the ratings for mobile radiation is very much higher, almost 700 times in India than that of US. What would you say on that?
This debate has been going on for about 10 years as to whether radiation harms or not. I don't think we have conclusive, hello? No, so people talk about harmful radiation. We really don't know the impact of it. Everybody is trying to push their angle. First we found out when the real study came on radiation, the guy wanted to sell a cover for every cell phone. Okay. I've been using cell phone for probably now 20 years. Maybe my brain is a little less, but that may have to do with age and not cell phone. I don't think we have exact data yet.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring lecture. Inspiring, that covers it all.
Thank you.
Whenever you speak, sir. Now, our government has been late in taking to the innovation road. But then we haven't done very little. The DST Inspire scheme that encourages the students at the +2 level and thereafter is no small initiative. And but sir, what is actually stopping us, holding us back? Because there have been a lot of initiatives. The Innovation Hub, of course, is the latest one. But is it an integrated whole, or we are just trying to do it in bits and pieces without anything really coming up? Every year we have one initiative after the other from the government, but then at the end of the year, the number of papers, number of good papers in reputed journals doesn't increase, and we are falling back. China is ahead, many countries are going ahead. What's happening really?
We must recognize that at the end of the day, people innovate. Governments don't innovate. Companies don't innovate. People innovate. You create innovative people, they will innovate against all the odds. It is nice to have ecosystem where they will get funding, support, mentoring. But we need to create people who are innovators. Our child rearing practices don't allow us to innovate. Ye garam hai, ye thanda hai. Bahar mat jao, andar jao, paan mein jao, to doob jaoge. Of course, if you go into water, you will drown if you don't know how to swim. So people don't let you do things. And especially I feel sympathized with girls. Poor girls are always told, ye mat karo, ye karo, wo karo, ye karo. Okay? You need to just turn them loose. And when you turn children loose, they begin to experiment. In our society, there are too many restrictions. We are a feudal, hierarchical society. No matter how you look at it. Okay? People like when you touch somebody's feet. What you are saying is, I am like dirt, and you are like God. Rather than shaking hands. Shaking hands says, I am equal. Just a simple idea. Okay? I remember when I was a young kid, a friend of mine, Dasrat Patel, came to my house for the first time and touched my father's feet. So my father was pretty impressed. He said, oh, this is a great guy. Look at him, you're a good friend. I said, Dad, he smokes, he drinks, he's a disaster, but he's my friend. Okay? So don't get impressed just because he touched your feet. But that's the value we have. Which is okay also. So I think people innovate. Government can give this system, that system. We need to be smart to make use of it. But what is happening today is community involvement in a lot of these things is very little. I tell also young people that you need to be work-centric and not pleasure-centric, not family-centric, not festival-centric. Work should be the core of your life. And then everything centers around it. Very few people here, I find, have work as the core of their life. Family, community, caste, neighborhood just takes over and just sucks you in. And you have to say, look, I'm not interested in going to wedding. I don't go to anybody's party. I don't watch movies or whatever. I don't go spend time on playing cricket or watching cricket. I focus on my work. And once you have more and more people who are work-centric, I think we will see the change. You can write off people who are about 45, 50 especially, for people like us. It's okay, we can talk, but they have to make it happen.
Sir, your role during the 80s was revolutionary. Do you foresee any revolution now?
Bigger. 10 times bigger than the telecom revolution is going to come when we democratize information. See, we have ITI. So now we are bringing a series of systems to democratize information. So we are creating two networks, one to connect 250,000 panchayats, one to connect 1,500 roads to connect university, libraries, R&D institutions, creating platforms. Nandan is doing UID, Dr. Kasturi Rangan and Dr. Ramaswamy is doing the GIS portal, then applications, Dr. Garola and the gang. When you have all of these things, you will have huge impact on education, health, governance, financial services. It will bring about transparency, accountability, there will be less corruption, people will be exposed. You go to network, they expose anybody today. If somebody is doing something wrong, you can just go on the net and tell that guy to get right. You could do that a few years ago. I gave a talk yesterday on Gandhiji to about 1,000 kids. And my message was Gandhiji's dream of rural prosperity and of Ram Rajya could not be translated because there was no internet. Internet is a bigger disruptive force than World War II. It will change everything. I mean, I should be able to take tour of this on web. We should plan that. Tour of Birla Museum should be on web. You enter the door, you see this exhibit, you see that exhibit, go to the next gully, take an elevator, go up, do this, do this. You should be able to do that. For example, before coming here, if I had Googled this, I would have sized the hall. I like to do these things. Okay. All of these tools are there, but we are just not using it because we don't have the mindset to do it. But I'm hopeful. These kids will change it. Okay. They will do it. I always say I have never seen a kid who reads instruction manual. They just do it. Somebody gave me this phone about 4 months ago. For 2 days, I didn't know how to operate. Now I'm supposed to be expert. Okay, I just didn't know how to operate this phone. So one day I was in Baroda, and there was a 12-year-old kid, my friend's grandchild, Sachin. I said, Sachin, fix this. So in 5 minutes, Sachin comes back. He said, Uncle, Dada, he said, you do this. I said, how do you know? He said, this is how the phone works. He said, you do this and that, and phone works. I said, why don't they write them in the instruction? I said, they should just say here that. I said, how did you figure it out? He said, I don't know. I just did this and it works. Don't underestimate the power of the young talent. And we sort of write them off. Well, you don't know. Listen to them. I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter. She lives in California. I said this yesterday. And she Skypes me every day. Every day. So when she types, I get on the computer and she would say, Dada, do this. So I do it. She said, play drum. So I play drum for her. They play W, so I play W for her. The interesting thing is, she realizes that this guy is a virtual guy. He's not a physical guy. Okay? Another interesting thing I find, that this kid is convinced that I have somebody who will do anything I tell him to do. It's like genie, he's in my control. So she feels so good that when Dada is on camera, he will do anything. So Dadi comes and she'll say, Happy Mother's Day, Dada. So Dadi gets mad, saying, what is this? I said, look, this is a new relationship. This is a new way to relate to it. So lots of things are going on. The kids are just unbelievable, loving, caring, terrific. they get corrupt quickly. If we can get this spark in our kids, love them, don't ask them questions, don't bother them, let them do whatever they want to do and tell them, I will be always there for you. Do whatever you want to, make some mistakes, try something out, get into trouble, it's okay. But I will be there for you. Explore and make your own life your way and not my way. Because my way was 30, 40 years old. Doesn't work the same way anymore. Look in front and not in the back. We tend to look in the back. Oh, we had this, we had that. In Gandhiji's time or in independent movement, okay, fine. They don't know that. Okay?